Okay, so last kind of topic for me is kind of around key takeaways for our audience. Um, so, Sonny, Margaret, I'll throw this one to both of you, and maybe Margaret, I'll start with yourself on this one. But the last topic, as I said, I wanted to cover was just around key takeaways with the audience on how best to go about modernizing their incentive programs, whatever they might be. So, yeah, Margaret, if you wouldn't mind, just again, just completely open forum, go for it. What have you seen done? What would you recommend to do, etc.
So again, it depends on what your ultimate goal is, but definitely you want to look at that and make sure that you're basing your incentives on that ultimate goal while not forgetting about your legacy business to keep it sort of running and what have you as you sort of move and migrate the business. You want to look at the different partner types and their go-to-market and perhaps look at incentivizing them differently. You definitely want to look at your total investment in the partner. And then, of course, regardless, you want to make sure that you've got your budget in mind.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Good old, the budget finance, very good. Yeah. So just, I suppose, again, digging a little bit, Margaret, would you say, for say, obviously, with Zebra now and LG previously and so on, but with many thousands of partners, that that's a lot to deal with. It all at different tiers, different regions, some through distribution, others direct. What would they just, without giving away too much, but what would be the mix of incentivization? Is it rebates? Is it spiffs? Is it funded heads? Is it MDF? Just give us a flavor of all the different types of moving parts.
It honestly it really depends, right? Some partners are more motivated by rebates, right? If you want to grow your market share or your wallet share within an organization, you definitely, I think, want to look at rebates. If you're trying to gain mind share within the sales reps, it's a different motivator. So maybe you want to look at tying rebates with a spiff where it's allowable. Looking at distribution, definitely looking at a mix of the two. And then, of course, definitely having that funded headed distribution, I think helps a lot because, to my point that I sort of made earlier, it's that funded head represents your organization within that company where they have access to sales reps and other parts of the organization that you may not, and can help influence business in that fashion as well. So it's sort of an incentive in that way. MDF, that's always an incentive when you can work together with that partner, whether they're a distributor or a reseller in the channel, to help grow the business.
Okay. Yeah, well, one kind of key theme I still see coming through is the rebates, old and new. I realize they're getting much more complex, because they're taking into account old products, new products, definitely different percentages, allocating for the training, vary by tier and so on. But I always think they're a much easier incentive, not necessarily to run, but they're a much easier one to get approved, coming back to your financial point and budgeting, because you're only paying out on closed business, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's, generally finance are not going to argue with it because it is a win-win. The more you can drive, the more the partner can win. And ultimately, you're incentivizing the partner entity, not an individual. Spiffs are great, but they have a bit of short-termism with them, right? So,
right.
Rebates I think are there for the long term. Would be certainly what I'm seeing in the marketplace. So Sonny, same. I know we're digging in there, but same kind of question. Obviously you working in definitely the software space now and previously. Same questions. How does it work out in that model?
And I think really being able to do some financial modeling, right, as you're planning to roll out incentives, working with finance, and also working with the product team, right, to see what is the margin analysis. And at times when maybe you're trying to focus on a particular product, right, as you're launching, or you've got some focused products that your company is really targeting, making sure that the incentives are aligned to really, give the results that you're looking for. at a previous company, the company was going through a movement of, just penetrating a list of focused products, and the internal sales reps were being rewarded for that. So then we created incentives for the partners as well, so that it was aligned, right? So that the reps and the internal reps as well as the partner reps were focused on the same things and being rewarded, so that they could really partner together. And I think, just making sure that you're working very closely with finance to understand, what is that budget threshold, and then making sure that you're measuring that and showing the results. Because I think a lot of times finance, because they want to see the return on the investment of all the money that you're spending. And if you are not tracking that well and circling back with finance to show them the results of that spend, it could really jeopardize future funding. So I'm a firm believer in working very closely with finance in the financial analysis, as well as circling back and going over the results of the incentives.
Yeah, no, that's great, Sunny. And I do think, once you get it embedded with partners and you do, do the incentives, let's say rebates again, it does start to stick, right? When you're successful with a partner and you do pay them, a fair rebate for what, they follow the rules of the program, basically, they do look for more, so you might pay, a run rate or a growth type rebate, and then add on a net new logo rebate to incentivize them extra for winning net new business, or indeed, as you said, on the product side, the focus for a quarter or a couple of quarters might be on a new product launch. And you may well change the needle on that one and pay an extra couple of percent for new business in that area. So I suppose the message, I would say to people is you've kind of got your hooks into the partners, then you do have those levers, and you can use those levers to impact the behavior of the partners, which is ultimately, what incentives are about. One other point, and I can't remember, was it Sunny or Margaret made it, but the whole modeling thing, I think that's important as well, because you can't just go out with an incentive, regardless of incentive type, and say, here it is to the partners. You've got to really model what that looks like. So if you do X amount of revenue across these products, what's the payout going to be? Of course, you can always cap it, but to get the best take up in the market, you have to really model it across the tiers, across the regions, etc. And that's really where the platform or incentivization platform approach is important versus trying to do it internally on spreadsheets and different systems. Basically, it's very important that that platform is there to do all of this kind of work, both for you and the partners. Okay, great. So I suppose last question for both of you, and we'll move into the poll results and Q&A. So Sunny, if you had one piece of advice to share with somebody trying to launch or update their channel incentives, what would it be?
Yeah, I think keeping it fresh is really important, right? You don't want to just repeat the same incentives over and over again into each quarter, each year. You really want to keep your incentives fresh. Try something different. Try something new that you haven't offered before, so that you can really excite the partners and their individuals. And because you want to really stand out against all the other vendors that they're working with, and you want to make it simple. Right? Keep it simple and then pay quickly. I think that would be my advice.
Yeah, no, it's great advice. It really is to keep it simple and pay quickly. I think partners appreciate that. They really do. And if that's definitely one way of winning their mind share, and it's a simple way, but yet so many people don't do it. So yeah, Margaret, I suppose last one for yourself. In your experience, what are the most common reasons you've seen incentives fail?
Because it's not simple. Honestly,
it's
as simple as that. Literally, if it's too difficult for your partners to understand how to get that rebate or that spiff or that whatever the incentive is, they are never going to pay attention to your organization, and the point of the incentive will come off the table because you're not engaging with them. So to Sunny's points, keep it fresh, keep it simple, and pay fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, Margaret, that really resonates with me. The the point if they fail because of complexity. You know, so many times people try to be too clever and they come up with these convoluted incentives, and they forget that that partner could be working with 5 or 10 other companies, and they're not going to spend the time just because you come up with a clever incentive. They're not going to even care. They're not going to spend the time to learn about it. So guess what? They're not even going to use it. So it's a fairly simple message, but yet people constantly trip up on trying to be too clever. So great stuff. Thanks very much. Really, really insightful, and love listening to it. So thank you, guys.